Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be going over the Learner Experience Program and the program planning overview for the entire program. So to start with, we're going to go through the program overview, then we're going to go over the complexity analysis, the program charter, the program roadmap, our ADKAR analysis, program work breakdown structure, benefits realization plan, our program governance, our program management plan, benefits transition plan, benefits sustainment plan, and our program management office charter or our PMO charter. And then we'll talk about our next steps. So to start with, here's the overview for the program. The Learner Experience Program is meant to centralize learning on the student. The main point of it is to simplify all non-learning activities. Activities like the application process, billing, advising, orientation, aspects of school that should be simple to the student and not necessarily be the hard part of going to college. But if we can reduce the pain of these activities and free up that time for our students to really center on their learning activities, we hope to reduce matriculation. And this is where the financial benefits come in, because currently it's estimated we lose between 15 and 18 million dollars a year of potential revenue due to matriculation of students. Now our goals are to help reduce matriculation, and if we can do that by even a small 5 to 7%, that will equate to an additional $2 to $3 million per year. That money can then be funneled into the improvements of our educational system, living situations, all those other things that we do here at Western University. So for our complexity analysis, we looked at the three different types of complexity: system behavior, human behavior, and ambiguity. Uh, to start with system behavior, Western University as a whole has a complex system because each department has its own system. Even within a department, there might be different processes depending on what the tasks are being done. Different departments have different goals. They might not all be pulling in the same direction from one department to the other. To go on to build off of that, we have human behavior. Human behavior depends on the level of buy-in from each individual that is working on this program, because each individual may have different motivations. You talk about someone at the beginning of their career versus someone at the end of their career, someone who might be looking to move up within the Western University, or someone that might be wanting to move on from Western University. Depending on what that person's motivations are, it definitely adds complexity to the implementation of the program. And then finally, ambiguity. Unfortunately, right now, most of these projects that we have in store for the LXP are based off of our theories. We don't know for sure that these activities are going to reduce matriculation. We have a pretty good idea that they will, but in terms of reaching our end benefit, which is to reduce matriculation and make for a better learning experience, we don't know whether these are the right combinations of projects to get that done. It's untested, but we are looking forward to seeing what can be done and make changes along the way. For our program roadmap, you can see how we've segmented the various projects that are in the program and the various activities that we have going on. As you can see, our tentative schedule right now doesn't see feasible our original goal of completing within the calendar year. So within December 21st, I believe was the date, that, clearly we're into about here on the program. So because of that, we need to start looking at some more realistic dates further on into the spring semester, and possible start of implementation during the summer semester, so that we can hit the ground running once again in the fall with a brand new class coming in. We hope that we can start to take a look at some of these realistic dates. The reason that these are laid out this way, we want to have a solid vision and governance council that's fully in place before we start talking about training our various faculty members, because if they have questions and the council hasn't been established yet, how does the program move forward? It's very difficult. And then we want to make sure that we have training in place and our projects have visibility before we can begin a detailed journey map, because at that point the council and all the trained employees are going to want to give feedback into what that detailed journey map looks like. Then at this point, then we can move forward with all of our other various projects that we have initially set up for our program. Moving forward into our ADKAR analysis, the goal of our ADKAR is to increase the enthusiasm and support from our employees and various stakeholders. Because if our higher up, our governance, is the primary driving force behind this, we're not going to see quite the level of sustainment after the program's ended. As you can see down here, these actions are crucial not only for attaining the initial benefits, but also when we get to benefit sustainment. After the program's over and our program management, our governance board somewhat moves on, we want to make sure that employees just don't go back to the way that things were done before. It'll waste all of the time and money that we spent getting those benefits in the first place. So first, with awareness, as integration becomes more complex, greater need for structured change management is necessary. We want to make sure that they see what the problem is, and see at that point that something needs to be done. At that point, then we need to show them the benefits of integration as streamlining of tasks. We want to show them that their lives are going to get simpler by enacting a solution to this problem. At that point, then we are into knowledge. We want to show the requirements for the solution and the plan for which we plan on solving that problem. Get them to know what we are going to be doing, and then at that point, then we can move into ability, which is where a lot of the heavy-duty action takes place. That's where we're training. That's where we're pushing skills. We're helping them move forward. But at this point, they have the desire, they have the knowledge of what needs to get done. They're going to want to move forward into their ability. They're going to want to be trained as opposed to forcing that on them. And then moving forward into reinforcement, we need to allow for them to give feedback, because any perfect solution for a governance member, a board member, something like that, is only good as far as the person implementing it. We need to make sure that their lives are improved by these solutions as well, not just by data numbers. We need to make sure that the system is moving smoothly. And how we do this is by integrating actions such as staff briefings, brainstorm sessions, training sessions, feedback implementation, other activities that we will have to include in our program plan in order for our ADKAR to be successful. So moving on into our program work breakdown structure, we sort of have three areas that we're trying to break our activities down into. The first is our program operation, executive sign-offs, our visions, the building of our council, uh, documentation, transition activities, benefit sustainments, closing activities. Those are all part of our program operation, moving the program forward as a whole. And then we have our organizational changes, which are changes that we're trying to implement into the greater Western University area. Like we talked about, our ADKAR work, all of those activities are going to be a part of our organizational change, our foundation training, and then integration of coordination. And then we have our matriculation reduction tasks, and these are what might be seen as our project work as a whole, getting those benefits that will get our matriculation rates down. That's what these tasks are, and our projects are broken down into overview information collection, solution planning, solution implementation, and then solution assessment, which the solution assessment, we're starting to look at the metrics, see what worked, what didn't work, what might be do better. If we're not getting the benefits from the original project, what went wrong? Do we need to go back and start a new project? Do we need to build off of what we did? That all happens in solution assessment. So for our benefit realization plan, the first key is we plan on being specific about our thresholds for our benefits. So instead of saying, for instance, reduce the time it takes to talk to an advisor, we would need to say reduce the time that it takes to talk to an advisor to less than 2 days, instead of just giving an arbitrary number, giving it an arbitrary goal. We need to be specific about that. That way project managers know what they're being judged on. And the governance board knows how good is good enough. Then our benefit impact on program, we need to trace our benefits back to the program vision. So our program vision of being learning centric and reducing matriculation rates, how are each of these benefits working towards that goal? Show our benefits interconnection with each other. So if one benefit is building off of another, we need to show those connections between the two. And then our metrics and procedures. Some of our metrics are student statistics. So for instance, number of applicants completed of their applications, very specific stats that we should be able to get from different departments and make sure that they're collecting them properly. Other metrics that we're going to be basing it off of are percent completed. This is based off of our earned value. And then other metrics that we're going off of rely on survey data. These will be conducted a week after any solutions implementation to be able to gather whether we have hit our goals or not. And then for our benefit realization plan, we have our chart here that denotes who's responsible, informed, accountable, and consulted on each of our benefits. And you can take a look at that at your own time. Moving forward into our program governance, of course, our governance board will be comprised of the president of the university, the dean of students, 2 deans that are yet to be determined, 3 department heads, which will consist of our finance department, our admissions department, and our bursar's office. For our meetings, we need to set up monthly meetings. During these monthly meetings, we'll go over change requests, phase gate reviews, document approval, and many other things that will comprise our normal monthly meetings. Beyond the monthly meetings, we can have special sessions. We want to make sure that during our monthly meetings, we don't get bogged down in certain items. So if something is taking more than 15 minutes to talk about and take a vote on, that's what special sessions are for, and we can table those discussions till later. We can also have emergency meetings called with a minimum of 2 hours notice. The governance board must have a quorum. These are for meetings with issues that need to get decided, obviously, very quickly. Hoping to keep those to a minimum, but changes do occur. Other forms of governments, of course, are our program managers, our program management office, and our project managers as well. Here are some flow charts that will give you an idea of how the program governance will work. First of all, our overall program flow, the governance board being at the top, the program manager being below the governance board, and our project managers and our project teams. They report out to all of the departments, faculty, and the students as are more closer to our eyes on the ground. Now the PMO, the Program Management Office, will be assisting all of our program level activities and do various activities for each level. So for our governance board, they're going to be doing more data analysis. For our program manager, they're going to be updating spreadsheets, tracking certain items. And then for our projects teams and project managers, they're going to be assisting with various levels of project level methodologies. So if the PJM is unaware of how certain things should be done, the PMO acts as a resource to them. Then we also have our escalation of issues. Starting at the bottom, we have our project and project teams. Issues under 5% of budget and schedule, those can be handled under the authorization of the project manager. They have 2 days to solve issues before they must escalate up to our next level of our program manager. Our program manager has the authorization to handle issues under 10% of the budget and schedule, and if an item cannot be solved by the program manager within 3 business days, then it gets escalated to the governance board. The governance board can handle issues over 10% of budget and schedule, the baseline budget and schedule. They are also involved in all issues involving scope or quality of dependent components. So if one project has a benefit that's dependent upon another project, that automatically jumps up to the governance board. Now, if the governance board is deciding on an issue that requires the increase of the overall program budget and there's no other way around it, they must then escalate that to the board of directors, who can then issue more money to the program if it deems fit. So a quick overview of our schedule management plan. We have our constraints, our internal and external, obviously. Internal looks at project and components. External is various different things outside of our control, be it the starting of school terms, which you saw at the project roadmap to start, and then also the fiscal year, depending on when money is doled out amongst the different departments. Beyond that, we have our monitoring, and that goes into our phase gate checking, status updates, and biweekly check-ins by the program manager to the various projects. Our status updates are once a month, and then biweekly check-ins sort of split those in between. These metrics, the metrics that we're going to use are total slack, so seeing if a project is ahead of schedule or behind schedule, and then our percent completion, which is calculated by our earned value. So for our risk management plan, we start with our different risk types. We have our component risks. These are risks that are specific to certain components. We have our complexity risks, as we talked about in our complexity analysis. These are things that affect system changes, human behavior, ambiguity, those sorts of things. Constraint risks are various constraints, so deadlines on internal and then external events such as the calendar events and constraints that are out of our control, like the fiscal calendar. Program environment, those risks are based off of more university culture, current trends, and technology shifts that happen. These are things that can happen that will affect whether our program is successful, but maybe uh, everything goes, all of our, say for instance, all of our computing goes mobile. That would be a technology shift. That would be a risk for us. Our probability impact. So the way that we score our risks, first our impact score, which is given a score of 1 to 5, and these go up in 20% increments of likely chances of them occurring. So, or not chances of their occurring, sorry, their percent cost increase. So for instance, if the cost or the schedule is to increase between 0 to 20%, that would be an impact score of 1. If the cost or schedule is estimated to increase between 20 and 40%, that would be a score of 2. And then so on and so forth up until greater than 80%. For our probability score, they're also given a score of 1 to 5. The chances of it occurring go up by 20%. So if you had a score of 1, that means that the chances of that item risk occurring are between 0 and 20%. Score of 2 between 20 and 40%, so on and so forth up till greater than 80%. And then how we get our scores are we multiply our probability score and our impact score, and that gives us our final risk score. As you can see in the matrix to the right, we sort of have our level of risk acceptance panned out here. So for a high level risk, we need to give a combination of mitigation, transfer, and avoidance strategies to help with this risk. It's reviewed weekly by the program manager and the PMO. It's reviewed at It's also reviewed at the monthly governance meeting. And by reviewed, I mean it's looked at to make sure that the probability and impact score are still at the same level. It's rescored if necessary and looked at on a regular basis. These mid-level risks here in yellow, they're given minimal levels of mitigation, transfer, and avoidance strategies to help offset the risk. It's reviewed bi-weekly instead of weekly by the program manager and the PMO. Updates are given monthly to the governance board, but not necessarily a full review by the governance board. And then low-level risks here in green, these are documented risks, defined generally as accepted. They're reviewed monthly by the program manager and the PMO. The governance board is only briefed if the risk escalates. So on to our benefit transition plan. It starts with our benefit approval. This is based off of those metrics that we talked about. These will be reviewed, aka they will be audited and checked for those metrics. If they reach the proper thresholds and the governance board and the program manager all give their approval, that begins the transition period. Now the transition period is a minimum of 5 days, but we also want to make sure that not all of the transition activities are occurring only in this 5-day period. Activities that will take place are the the new owners of these benefits will be trained in the new ways of doing things. They'll start to take over those activities on their own and then use the current benefit owner as a resource for that transition. But like I said, we want to make sure that there are transition activities being conducted. These transition activities aren't necessarily purely transition activities. They go along with our ADKAR work to make sure that the people who will be taking over these understand why we're doing them. They understand that there's benefits for them, and we need to make sure that those benefits for them are being achieved. All of those activities taking place during various program activities. Our roles and responsibilities. Our governance board gives the authorization for the benefit approval. Our program manager reviews and audits, and then also gives ADKAR oversight as a part of the review and the authorizations. Our current program owners, those will be the ones conducting the training and providing feedback to the future owners. And then the future owners will be providing feedback back to the program in general to make sure, as a part of our ADKAR feedback loop, to make sure that the new solutions and benefits are all working with the people that are conducting it. Our success factors include completed ADKAR work, as we've been talking about. New component owner understands all their responsibilities, and then the program owners, the owner of the benefit on the program side gives its full effort on the transition. So we want to make sure that this transition period isn't looked lightly by the program benefit owner. They need to train the operations people and put just as much effort into that as they did of obtaining the initial benefit. Then that moves into our benefit sustainment plan, which in our roles and responsibilities, we have our different departments, our PMO, which may have some different faces in it because we want to make sure that the PMO continues to mature with the level of maturity of the project management methods being used by Western University. We also want to make sure that the program director, which is no longer necessarily the program manager, this person, it doesn't need to be their full-time job to be the program director, but we do need one person to generally have a one view of what all these different departments working together should look like. And that would be our program director. And then once again, moving forward into our program governance board, which doesn't necessarily need stakeholders that have as much clout as the ones of the learner experience program, but still a group that different departments can agree on. These people have the authorization to make changes. That moves into our communication plan, which essentially consists of monthly update meetings and status reports. These status reports will contain last month's metrics. They contain any changes being made, if any, the current top 3 challenges or issues, and updates to challenges from the previous month. And then our risks for sustainment. If our ADKAR work was not completed, you're going to have people that are different departments that are going to have more regression into back to the way things were, sort of thing. Then also, the new component owner needs to understand their responsibilities, as we talked about in the previous slide. And we want to make sure that the governance board and the program director still have enough eye on things that changes are not tried to be made without that unified vision. So if different departments take a look at these changes, they're like, oh, that's cool, but what if we tried it a little bit different, and don't communicate that and work through the proper channels, that may have regression in the performance in other departments. So we want to make sure that all of these mechanisms are still in place. And then once again, for our sustainment plan chart, we have our responsibilities, accountabilities, informed, and consult with various departments and people. And then finally, we have our PMO, or Program Management Office Charter Overview. Statement of purpose to increase the productivity and efficiency amongst the learning experience program, provide support to projects, and provide support to the governance board. So like we showed on those governance charts, the PMO is to help both the people up top and the people down below. It's supposed to provide benefits to everybody so that no one sees it as the negative rule keeper, but more as a guiding hand in the program. We have our customers and stakeholders. It's essentially anybody that has touch points to the program, which is pretty much everybody in the entire university. That's the governance board, project teams, the faculty and staff, students, board of directors, parents, and even alumni. Service offerings are provide tools and techniques to project managers for use on projects, provide coordination and administration duties for the governance board, provide data analysis services for the program. This is essentially what the PMI standard would define as a program-specific PMO. And then our PMO success profile, improvements of project management performance, overall success of a program through alignment of goals, reduction of effort required by the governance board, and then closer to the end of the program, we want to transition to make sure it's more of an operations work, but also continuing on to more of a portfolio level, providing support for new programs, new projects as they arise, and continues the maturity of the project management levels at Western University. And then finally, our next steps. So this program has just begun, and these are sort of the next steps that we need to take to move forward with it. First, of course, we need the approval so we can get our funds and our authorizations. We're going to need document feedback because various departments have not taken a look at any of these documents that we've created. We need to understand how the feasibility is depending on each department. We need governance in place. The governance board is crucial to the operation of our program, so we need to make sure that those people are briefed and brought in. And then we need to start our ADKAR work because we need to start to educate all the staff that are going to be included in this. We need to educate them on what the problem is, and then begin to move our way down the ADKAR methodologies. So that starts with just educating everybody on the problems that we're having and how that would affect them. So that pretty much sums up where we are with the learner experience right now. Willing to take any questions, and thank you for your time.